A very good day to one and all. Today's class is on mouth breathing habit. So initially, coming to the definition, one of the definition is given by Sassoni in 1971, where he defined mouth breathing as habitual respirations with the mouth instead of the nose. So classification of mouth breathing was given by Finn in 1987. Finn and Sim has given a classification where he categorized mouth breathing into three, that is obstructive, habitual, and anatomical. Obstructive is nothing but increased resistance to or complete obstruction of the normal airflow through nasal pathway. So it might be a cause, it might have caused due to some kind of a obstruction, that is which will lead to which will lead to a complete obstruction of the normal airflow. Whereas habitual is as a matter of habit or persistence of the habit even after this elimination of the obstruction which is already been present. So if we eliminate the obstruction which is anatomical or obstructive changes from which might hinder the normal nasal airway, then even after this mouth breathing habit persists, then we will call it as a habitual type of mouth breathing. Next is their anatomical. Anatomical means it might be because of any short upper lips, which will lead to incompetency in the lips, and gradually the child will become a mouth breather. Short upper lip leads to incompetence of the lips and hence mouth breathing. So coming to the etiological factors, there are so many etiological factors, like it has been estimated that 85% mouth breathers suffer from some degree of nasal obstruction. So it might be due to developmental anomalies like abnormal development of the nasal cavities or a partial obstruction in deviated nasal septum and localized benign tumors. So any of these conditions might lead to nasal obstruction. That is why it is said that some or the other way 85% are found to be a mouth breather due to some of these reasons. Next is infection and inflammation of the nasal mucosa. Children who has this chronic allergies, chronic atopic rhinitis, enlarged adenoid tonsillitis they may also develop mouth breathing habit. Or traumatic injuries of the nasal cavity will lead to mouth breathing habit. And some of the genetic patterns, it has been found that some cases have shown with a genetic pattern. So major clinical features of a mouth breather are facial appearance of a child with mouth breathing habit is termed as adenoid face. So if you look into the face, you will see the characteristic adenoid face for a chronic mouth breather. They will have a long, narrow face, narrow nose, nasal passage if you check it will be narrow, short upper lip, nose tipped superiorly, expressionless face basically, and some of the dental defects are internally, if you check, there will be generally protrusion of the maxillary incisors in a chronic breather. If you check the palatal wall, maxillary arch, it will be high. Increased incidence of caries will be there because if you check into a oral cavity of the mouth breather, they will definitely, their breathing pattern will be through the oral cavity. So gradually their teeth will be dry when compared to the normal nasal breathers. So dry field will definitely will harbor microorganisms and caries risk is more higher in that condition. Then you have, if in case of hypertrophic mouth breathing, gingivitis will be there, gingival swelling. For mouth breathing, especially in the anterior region, if you check, there will be gingival enlargement. So some of the general features are, in order to breathe, the child bends the neck. If you check the neck posture, the neck posture will be, there will be a slight change in the neck posture. That is, the child bends the neck forward, straightening the oronasopharyngeal part. So in order to compensate the airway, they will attain the change. There will be a little change in the neck posture. This gives the appearance of a pigeon chest. Then in mouth breathers, the oropharynx is dry and can produce a low-grade esophagitis. Then maxillary sinus and nasal cavity frequently becomes narrow, turbinates, becomes swollen and engorged. Speech acquires a nasal tone. Then definitely they will have sleep apnea syndrome. This is due to the loss of cleansing action of the saliva and there is generally an enlargement of the lingual tonsils at the base of the tongue. This leads to partial or complete obstruction of the oropharynx during the sleep. So, in such chronic breathers, you will have to suspect for sleep apnea syndrome. Then coming to the gas constituents. So in this general features, you will have to check for the neck position, paging chest, then see for the nasal tone. Then what is sleep apnea syndrome? So blood gas constituents reveals that the mouth breathers have 20% more oxygen and less 20% more carbon dioxide and less of oxygen levels in their blood. And in appearance, they will definitely have an adenoid face. That is the typical characteristics of a mouth breather. Lips are held wide apart. Incompetent lips will be seen. There is lack of tone of oral musculature. Upper lip will be short. The chin is receded and the face has typical pigeon face appearance. That means the neck will be a little forward. Then the nose is tipped superiorly. Long narrow face expression is lost. The bridge of the nose will be flat. The dental and skeletal features, if you check into the intraoral features, low tongue position will be seen, narrow maxillary arch, high arch palate will be there, protrusion of the maxillary and mandibular incisors, the palatal wall will be high, mandible hang open in a slack manner. So if you check into the opening of the mouth when you ask the patient to open the mouth, just check the mandibular movement. Then anterior open bite will be present for a chronic mouth breather. Then increased incidence of caries will be present. Mucus and plaque becomes more tenacious and chronic keratinized marginal gingivitis will be present. Especially this gingival enlargement will be seen in the upper anterior region. So when it comes to the diagnosis, you should take a proper history and observe the patient. Observe the patient properly. So in the history, the parent can be questioned whether the child adopts frequent lip apart closure. Just ask whether the child sleeps in an open mouth posture. Does he always keep the lips apart, or is his mouth always open by watching TV or reading books, etc. So frequent, and one more question is that you can ask if does the child has frequent occurrence of tonsillitis, or does he have allergic rhinitis? Does he quite often get cold? Then on examination. So if you get the patient, observe the patient unknowingly while at rest. So in a nasal breather, lip will touch lightly, whereas in a mouth breather, lips will always. If you check the lip competency, it will be incompetent. Then patient is asked to take deep breath. So in nasal breather, they keep the lips tightly closed, whereas in the mouth breather, takes deep breath keeping mouth open, or they will try to force their lip, or a force like activity will be seen of their mouth to trying to close the lips. So some of the clinical tests which we can confirm mouth breathing are is your mirror test or fog test. Mirror test is also known as a fog test. Here we use a double-sided mirror which is held between the nose and the mouth. And when they breathe, you will see the fogging on the nasal side of the mirror indicating nasal breathing, while fogging towards the oral side indicates oral breathing. Whereas massless water holding test is something where you will ask the patient to keep the mouth inside the water, not to, and ask them not to swallow or spit, and see how long if they can keep this water inside the oral cavity. The patient is asked to fill the mouth with water and hold it for a period of time. So at least 3 to 4 minutes, ask them to keep it. While nasal breathers accomplish with ease, whereas mouth breathers find the task very difficult. So they will try to swallow the water or they'll spit the water. Next is your Dreeman's butterfly test. A butterfly shaped piece of cotton is placed over the upper lip below the nostril. If the cotton flutters down, it indicates nasal breathing. Whereas if it flutters in the mouth oral region, that means we can confirm it as a mouth breather. Then there is this rhinometry. Rhinometry is nothing but an inductive plethysmography. Here you will get a quantitative assessment of total airflow, which is through the nose and mouth. And another method which we can test or identify is through the cephalometric radiographs. So in a cephalometric radiograph, you will be able to see the proper nasopharyngeal space, whether it is constricted or proper nasopharyngeal space is present or not, that we will be able to assess. So coming to the management, so from the treatment aspect, there is symptomatic treatment. So symptomatic treatment is the gingiva of the mouth breather should be restored to normal health by coating the gingiva with petroleum jelly. So if we coat the gingiva with petroleum jelly, it will not become so dry and which will not lead to the mild gingival inflammation. And for first and foremost is we have to eliminate the cause. So in the mouth breathing habit, we have to find out the proper etiology, and based on that, we have to eliminate the cause for the child to get a mouth breathing habit. So if there is any nasal or pharyngeal obstruction, we have to identify and diagnose it, then we have to do the treatment accordingly. Then removal of the cause is done by either surgery. If the child requires surgery, a proper ENT consultation has to be done, and based on that, they will assess the child's nasal pathway. If there is any pharyngeal obstruction which requires surgical intervention, they will do as per the treatment required for each patient, which will be different. So based on that, a proper treatment has to be provided. Next is interception of the habit, either by physical exercises or lip exercises. Physical exercises, you can give them proper breathing exercises. Then lip exercises like 15 to 20 minutes per day for 4 to 5 minutes is required. So in order to, if you check or if you see for a normal human being to unlearn a habit or unlearn a learned pattern, it will at least take 4 to 5 months. So if you're giving a habit breaking appliance or a habit breaking therapy, you might reinforce, motivate them, and they have to. If we are giving any kind of exercises, they'll have to do it at least minimum of 4 to 5 months. Then only this habit pattern can be changed or unlearned this pattern. So next is the appliance therapy, which is very familiar to all. It's the oral screen, which is the most effective way to re-establish nasal breathing, is to prevent air entering the oral cavity. To do this, lip or oral cavity must be closed. So in order to close this lip and oral cavity, as you've seen, this oral screen pattern is like this. Oral screen appliance will close the oral cavity. So gradually the child will stop breathing through the nose, sorry, breathing through the mouth, and then they will start adapting breathing through the nose. So that's all with the mouth breathing. So if you're asked to write about mouth breathing, you will have to write definition. One definition is given. This simple definition you can learn. Then write the fifth classification of mouth breathing habits. 3 types of classification. Write what is obstructive, habitual, and anatomical. Etiological factors. Then the clinical features, which is extraoral and intraoral features. What are the general features? Also, you should write. Then, how do you diagnose a mouth breathing habit, which includes the proper recording of the history, then the examination. Under the examination, what are the tests? Observing the patient knowingly, unknowingly, and the tests which you will do for to confirm mouth breathing habit. You should learn that. And finally, the management.